You might be frustrated because you have done all the things they told you to do. You did the diets, you did the tests, you did the therapy, you did the behavioral, occupational, whatever they handed to you. You tried to cope with this, accept this, and you can't. The supplements didn't work, the extreme diets didn't work, the tests, the other moms, the practitioners have not helped you change the situation, change the symptoms, or give you or your child a better outcome or independence or less symptoms. If this is you, or if any of these descriptions fit your current perspective and situation, this podcast episode is definitely for you. There's hope and there's a way out, and I'll tell you what it is exactly step by step. It's a completely new beginning. The battle is between you and autism symptoms. You need to know if you need to change your strategy, because what you're doing isn't working and will never work. And what does? So this episode is for you if you are grieving the loss of a child that's still there. The autistic child, the child with all the symptoms or the hyperactivity and ADHD. If you are so incredibly tired because you can't leave the house without fearing the next tantrum, you can't go shop or run errands without fearing the next meltdown, you can't hold conversations with anybody because you're constantly being interrupted, you cannot sleep at night because your child does not sleep, or you're ashamed because you hate the aggression, honestly. You hate the behavior. You lash out in anger when you just can't take it anymore. And honestly, you don't feel that the hand flapping or the eloping or all these symptoms are gifts, so you're not celebrating it. And you feel ashamed about that because everyone else is talking about autism pride and being proud of this, and you don't feel like that at all. In fact, you get resentful. You might even be fearful. When you look into the future, there's no independence in sight. Will your child ever have a job? Will your child ever have a friend? Will your child ever have a partner? Live independently, drive a car, be able to handle his or her health and money? Or what will happen to this child if you no longer can take care of him or her? You are okay. You're human. You're not lost. You're not a lost case. You're not too late. But you have lost direction. And that's what's up. That's what's wrong. God is not punishing your child, and I'll show you how that is the case scientifically and epigenetically. God actually has a plan for you, and you have access to the tools to help your child. But the enemy has distractions when God has a plan, and you have been a vulnerable victim to distractions, misinformation, and side steps that would have never led to lasting results for your child. And we're going to put an end to that today. So we got to get really clear here. Are you making the smartest decisions right now? Because my guess is that you're probably not. Are you making decisions that support your need to create a life that is sustainable right now for you and your child and your family? And a future that looks better with less symptoms and more independence? Because if that's what you want, it is not going to work to chase other people, practitioners, other moms, or modalities, or supplements, or tests, or functional medicine practitioners, or detox protocols to try and deal with the symptoms. Because the symptoms are actually here to show you the way out. Symptoms are messengers, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But if you get these symptoms removed by somebody else, you miss out on the message that's actually going to set you free from prison. So coping strategies, focusing on the child, focusing on symptoms, will not work. In order for you to really leverage your results, to create lasting change, to be able to help yourself and your child, you need to be really clear and change your strategy. You need clarity so that you know exactly what's triggering my child's symptoms. You need to know that from moment to moment. What works and what doesn't work for my child when it comes to lifestyle changes in food and nutrition and supplements. You need to know that. And how do I adjust my approach accordingly as I go along the way in this turnaround process? Because you can't do the same things all the time. This is why protocols don't work. This is why functional medicine practitioners miss out on real changes. This is why you can't follow someone else, some other mom who's done a detox or an intervention and get the same results, because your child's needs change all the time. And unless you are able to look at the child, interpret the symptoms, and adjust your approach according to the symptoms and the feedback that you get, you are going to hit roadblocks and you're not going to see lasting change. And this is not just about nutrition and diet and lifestyle. You are so much more than autism. And you are 70 to 80% of your child's turnaround process. And you're also 70 to 80% of the failed attempts. Not because I want you to feel guilty. I want you to feel empowered by that. You are not just an autism mom, and autism is not a life sentence. You are a spiritual human being, and God has a plan for you, and you're being given experiences so that He can reveal them to you and communicate to you. You are an emotional being with a history and some wounds and trauma, and that wound and that trauma is really affecting your perspective, the way that you show up, the way that you contribute in your family, and the way that you either parent and heal and feed yourself and understand yourself or not. And unless you understand your self-sabotage patterns and your stress type so that you can understand how your wounds and traumas subconsciously prevent change, because a wounded child is at the steering wheel right now and will not allow change, will not allow danger, and is afraid of being let down again. If, say, your trauma is worthlessness because your parents were divorced or you weren't loved the way that you wanted to be loved, and you deemed yourself worthless because of that, you will show up in a way that confirms or repeats that pattern. And that might be over perfectionism. It might be that you're a control freak. It might be that you're constantly on the go looking for solutions, looking for diets, detached from your body, completely detached from your heart. And my dear friend, that state is not the state of peace that will bring healing to you or your child. So unless we address that, which is what I spent majority of the time that I'm working with moms addressing and healing together, you will work against your child's turnaround process, and you won't understand why you're trying all these things and nothing works. And the more intelligent you are, the more sophisticated your self-sabotage patterns and your escape mechanisms will be. So you might actually escape into autism turnarounds or practitioners or Facebook groups and waste years there, repeating a sense of worthlessness where you're either a pleaser, a control freak, a performer, trying to prove your worth. And we need to heal that for you to really be useful for your child in this crisis. You are the stress buffer for your child. It's proven in scientific studies over and over again that your health and your peace and your stress levels are transferred to your child. Your child comes to you to deal with the stressors of this fallen world. And this is a crazy world that we live in. So if you are stressed out, if you're anxious, if you're fretting, if you're fearful, if you're showing up in this world based on trauma wounds and you're detached from your body, you're not really parenting yourself well. And this is what happens with children who have parents with children that are struggling, is that we tend to neglect ourselves and our own health and our own peace. And that prevents us from really truly helping our children. Because our children's gut health, detoxification, social skills, their immune system, all the things they need to function, their cognitive development is determined by the peace, the health, and the example in their parents. It's shown how they copy our breathing, our heart rate, and if we are stressed out, they will have the same negative health effects that we have from being stressed out. This is so important for you to grasp, that without your healing, without understanding yourself, without getting into a place of peace in your heart, from what's in your heart is from your heart flows either life or death. And the Bible says that the state of the heart brings life to the body or death and destruction. God is not punishing you at all. He's grieving with you. He sees your tears. He is crying with you, and He wants you to feel better, to heal, and to be in a peaceful state in your heart. And the heart scientifically is linked to all the organs in the body. So the heart is connected to the brain, and nerve fibers connects that to the whole body. So it affects your kidneys, your liver, your hormones, your mood, your behavior, the state of your heart. And the state of the heart is either peace or lack of peace, which equals dis-ease. So unless you are at peace in your heart, and you can't be at peace in your heart without being at peace with God and self and others, in your walk with God, self and others, you can only love others as you love yourself. So love is required, peace is required. So here's some examples of how God sees your tears. Isaiah 41:13, for I, the Lord your God, will hold your right hand, saying to you, fear not, I will help you. And Psalm 56:8, you have kept count of my tossings, put my tears in your bottle. Are they not in your book? God knows our sufferings and tears. He sees how we suffer, and He is near to us in our suffering. No tear that you have cried has gone unnoticed by your Heavenly Father. And in Matthew 11:28, Jesus says, come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, I will give you rest. So God's plan is not to punish you. God's plan is to bring you to more peace and to reveal His plan by what is going on in your life right now. So how do you use all this to actually change your child's symptoms? Let's get into that. I'm now going to give you the exact missing links that will change symptoms for your child, and you will understand why the things that you've done hasn't worked, and why functional medicine practitioners, other moms, tests, protocols, diets, detoxes won't work, because there are missing links and gaps in that approach. And I also want to say that when I work with moms, I don't do anything with their children. I don't even talk much about their children. I only work on you as a mother, turning you into the expert that I had to become to save my children from stimming, tantrums, eloping, screaming, sleepless nights, nonverbal autism, no learning, no development, to none of those symptoms, and a fully independent life. So what is it that you need? You need, one, a vehicle to get you from where you are at now to where you want to be. You need that vehicle to be you. So you need to look at yourself as a vehicle, and the state of your health and self-understanding and the way that you have changed yourself, understood yourself, healed yourself will be the exact way that you will be able to heal, understand, and change your child. You have to understand this and trust me on that. The other vehicle that you need is a plan. You need a roadmap to take you from where you are at now to where you want to be. And in my world, with my 18 years of experience, there are 5 pillars, 5 stops and steps to get there, if you will. And it's important to know before we share what that is, before I tell you exactly what that is, that you understand that you need knowledge-based tools to understand what triggers symptoms and why your child is struggling, what works for your child, what doesn't work for your child, what is holding you back, what is standing in your way, what's slowing you down. And then you need to go and practice this knowledge in your life as a parent, when you're shopping, when you're getting up in the morning, when you are helping your child turn symptoms around. You need to practice that in your own life. That is application tools. And I have such significant, effective application tools in my Autism Turnaround program. Then you need integration. And that is probably the most important part of the journey, is that when you have learned things and applied it to your life, you need to integrate it. It's much like buying a new program that you then need to install on your computer for it to become a reality. And that's the spiritual part of the journey that cannot be explained. It has to be experienced. You need the right instruction and the right direction, or you will get lost. And there are so many distractions, so many false information, so many misconceptions. And turning symptoms around is really a question of, am I listening to the right instructor, or am I listening to the distractions? We can only listen to the right instruction when we can be a receiver from God and understand how He designed us for perfect health, and understand how He communicates to us about what foods to eat, what foods to give, what approaches to take. He puts people in our lives. He puts food in our lives. He created us to live in a certain way in nature to heal. But if you don't know how to determine the difference between the distraction and the direction, you will get lost. And a majority of my time is about coaching moms and understanding and reconnecting to the right direction and getting all of that crap out of the way, including ourselves and our trauma wounds, which is the most important roadblock in this journey. So in order to do this, you need to be involved, you need to be in the right state, because what is the right and optimal state for health in your child? We're created to be completely balanced. That happens when we are at peace. So that is mentioned all over the Bible as well, that peace brings life to the body, and Jesus is the life and the truth and the way, and He is peace. But you need to be in a state of peace emotionally, physically, and environmentally, where you live, the way that you live your life. So you need to be in the right state, you need to be involved, and you need the right tools. The tools are in 5 categories. One is the wake-up call from God that wants you to change something. You need to shift the way you think about autism. Autism is not a mistake. Autism is not a punishment. Autism is a wake-up call, and God communicates, in my experience, through these children to show us where we are off track in our walk with God, self, and others in this artificial fallen world. And a lot of practitioners and healers and moms and fitness and wellness experts out there are part of the distraction that just distorts the message from God, hijacks the message from God so that you cannot hear it and respond to it. And that's a massive step 1. You need to understand that autism is a message and that it's here to change you. Number 2, you need to understand that God created you to be in nature. We spend a lot of time reconnecting to the optimal state in which we are connected to and operating from the rules and laws that God put into nature. Circadian rhythm, grounding, the microbiome, responding to the environment, and all the science-based tools linked to that. Number 3, self-sabotage, wounds and trauma, and your stress needs to be dealt with. You can only heal, change, and understand your child to the level you've healed, changed, and understood yourself. It is 60 to 7% of the journey. Number 4, you need to change the environment that got your child sick. You cannot heal in the same place with the same patterns and the same wounds and the same self-sabotage patterns, the same family dynamics, where you keep showing up the way that you were traumatized to show up early in life. And you can't help the triggers and the traumas in your life, but that doesn't mean that you're not held accountable for how you show up now, and that needs to change, including probably where you live, if you live in a very toxic place, including the air quality, the water quality, the emotional dynamic in the family. And then finally, number 5, the missing link in most autism practitioners and dietitians and protocols out there, the bio-individual nutritional key, which addresses the complexity of undermethylation, which 90 to 98% of children with autism are undermethylated. They don't have balanced neurotransmitters, enzymes, and hormones. Adjusting it is very complicated and dangerous, and most of the supplements and health foods and diets out there that are considered healthy and used by a lot of autism moms and practitioners are making matters worse. There are no foods or health foods that won't exacerbate autism symptoms and make children worse in some cases, a lot of cases, and you need to know which foods they are for your child specifically. You need to understand that these children have metal dysregulation, mineral dysregulation, they have a zinc and magnesium deficiency, but it's not a question of testing and then giving the supplement, because if you give a supplement, you can get long-term knock-on negative effects. So you need to know how to tailor your child's diet and nutrition on a monthly basis, becoming an expert so that you can step out of this helplessness where you constantly have to depend on practitioners to follow you through life, or depend on supplements to fix symptoms rather than the root cause. And that's why I have engaged one of the best autism practitioners out there who know these things to train moms inside my program to learn how to do that, to learn how to take your child through that bio-individual journey as well. And when you've completed that, more about this than most practitioners out there. In my setting, it's a group coaching program where you get all these tools that took me 8 years to complete, compressed into 12 months. You go through these steps at your own pace, and there's a place to come for help. Coaching calls, there's a community that helps you and supports you of moms that are going through exactly what you're going through, and moms who have already completed the process and turned their children around. So that is my passion, and that is what I do. And if you want to check it out, and if you want to talk about it, send me an email, contact@barefootautismwarriors.com, and in the subject line, write program. And let's talk about what's going on in your life. If you don't want to send me an email because that is too complicated, trust me, we're not going to change your child. These are just some of the basic notes and bullet points describing the journey that we are going to complete together. If you can't send me an email, I'm not your girl. I'm not your coach. So you can also go to barefootautismwarriors.com and look up the program or the free resources to try and get a hold of. So should you consider this, is your child a good candidate for a turnaround process like my child was, or the moms that I've helped, which you can find on my website, barefootautismwarriors.com, and look at the case studies there. The moms that see the most significant results in the group coaching program are the moms who are not looking for a quick fix. They have done all the diets, the practitioners, the supplements, the tests, the detoxes, the mom groups, and they've done the gluten-free, they have done the Nemetschek, whatever you have done that hasn't worked, you're a good candidate for the turnaround process, because there are stones that you haven't turned. You are not yet an expert who can look at your child, determine what is triggering a symptom, what works for your child and what doesn't work, and how to tailor your approach, not by focusing a lot on the child, but becoming an expert in reading symptoms, period, by lived experience. If you're someone who are willing to do that work and you want to put at least 6 more likely 12 months into this process, because you are not going to turn something as significant as autism symptoms around with less than that. And if you're someone who are willing to become an expert and stop the helplessness and hopelessness of always having to lean on other people to tell you, why do my child have a symptom and what do I do about it, you're a great candidate. And you have to be proactive, because it's not something I'm going to do for you. It's a group coaching program and I'm doing it with you. But by doing it with you, the procrastination levels and the drop-off rates and the self-sabotage patterns are minimized. And you're also in a group with other moms who are in a similar situation like you, supporting you all throughout the way. So you're going through a process that took me 8 years, but you're compressing it into 12 months to 14 months. And it's an amazing process, but it's also hard. It is not easy, so I don't want you to think this is going to be easy. You're also going to have to be willing to understand that healing hurts. Wound care takes time. You got to get the grit out. You got to get stitches. You then got to rip the Band-Aid off and start over. So it's not a linear process where everything just gets better. It gets better and then it gets worse and then it gets better, because the more you understand, the more layers you peel off, the deeper we get into the core issue of why your child got sick and why you're still struggling. So you have to be willing to do that. At the end of that, there is freedom. And I will say that doing it without having faith in God and being on board with wanting to include prayer meditations and understand what God's plan is for you, I don't think it's a good idea, because it's uphill and you're gonna lean on your own understanding, and you won't understand the importance of being guided spiritually via the Holy Spirit, which will save you years and so much problems and setbacks. So the moms that are against that are the moms that I see a lot of challenges for. They are going through a lot of challenges. So I wouldn't encourage that. If you have that hesitancy, probably not a good idea either. If you feel like this year is the year where I'm going to turn symptoms around, I need the support and help. I need the plan. I need the tools to understand what triggers my child's symptoms and how to find a way out. Go to barefootautismwarriors.com, click on program, or send me an email so we can talk about whether or not we are right fit. Contact at barefootautismwarriors.com. And looking forward to sharing the next episode with you. It's a roundtable talk with 3 amazing moms who are currently going through the program, talking about the ups and downs and the wins and the most challenging parts of going through this, and the many things that has already changed in their lives as a result. See you in the next episode.